Welcome, everybody. So, we are going to get started. It is Saturday, July 19th, and we are on season two. Isn't that amazing? We had an amazing season one, and today is our premiere of our season two. We're incredibly grateful for everyone who is joined on with us today. Thank you so much. So just a little housekeeping, as Shay says, make sure you're muted. It's okay to come on video if you like, if your background is appropriate, that's perfectly okay. You can come on video. If not, you can stay muted. But thank you, everyone. Thank you for joining the Ask Carol show. It's season two of our premiere. We have a treat lined up for you. So let's kick it off. Let's get started with my rap. Are you ready for my rap? Here we go. Now, ask Carol anything, don't hold back. Real conversations on the right track. Real impact, no fluff, just fact is Ask Carol. Today we're asking Carol and we're asking our special guest, attorney at law, Tamara Sharp. So have your questions ready. Start putting stuff in your chat. If you were on with us on season one, you know that you're in for some good information. So get ready. Put your questions, put your comments in the chat. It's our family attorney, Tamara Sharp. So, for those of us who were not with us on season one, and you're just joining us here today on season two, my name is Carol Samuels. I am the host with the most, and we have our beautiful Shay, my co-host today, and my producer. We're gonna kick it today. So thank you all again for joining us. I am the host with the most. I am also a Christian. I think that's very important to let you know that I'm also a Christian. I am also a podcaster, new and upcoming podcaster. I work in the social service field for many, many years, and I am married to a wonderful husband. And this is what I love to do, and we're all going to have fun today. You're all my co hosts today. You're all my family, and you're all my friends today. So thank you so much for joining us. So today, by popular demand from season one, we have the beautiful, the brilliant, the amazing attorney at law Tamara Sharp out of Pennsylvania. So, who is Tamara Sharp? We're going to find out. So, Tamara Sharp Esquire, she's a sole owner of Sharp Legal Services LLC, representing families in New Jersey and Pennsylvania. He graduated from Penn State University in 2012 and received her Juris Doctorate from Drexel University, Thomas R. Klein School of Law in 2015. Ms. Sharp has extensive experience in several areas of family law, including restraining orders, divorce, and custody cases. Since 2017, Ms. Sharp has been a law guardian representing children in abuse and neglect cases in New Jersey. Neglect cases in New Jersey. Ms. Sharp litigates matters in different counties throughout New Jersey and Pennsylvania and has worked as a counsel to several prominent attorneys, prioritizing the best interests of the children and safety of the family. Ms. Sharp deeply cares about what her clients and work and diligently to provide the counsel they need. Beautiful. And that was a mouthful. So, Miss Sharp, welcome again by popular demand. Welcome to the Ask Carol Talk Show.
Thank you. Thank you for having me back. I truly
You
appreciate it.
you are so welcome. And you are most popular. Gotta tell you, Miss Sharp, from season one, my phone blew up. When you came on in season one, my phone, we ran out of time. We couldn't get to all the questions. So we're going to get to most of the questions today. We are going to get right into it. So, Miss Sharp, tell us about yourself and why you chose family law.
So I definitely chose family law because I love helping out families. I love being able to kind of get them to a resolution when they're really at the time of need. A lot of times, when they're coming to me, they're not in a happy space. They're coming because they're frustrated or they're upset. And I really like the ending result of being able to counsel them and, really just being a listening ear for them a lot of the times. Navigating a legal process that is sometimes very difficult. Even, me starting out, if there's something new, I have to learn it as well. If there's a new judge, it's always something new. So I just love being able to help people out.
Good. And there is no day that is the same in your life as an attorney. Every day is different. And now, Ms. Sharp, talking about every day is different. What does a typical day look like as a family attorney?
So it really depends on the court's calendar, and your caseload. So I do, family law but I also do different areas. So I do custody, I do support, divorce, and as well as represent children in abuse and neglect cases. So some days I may have court in the morning, and in the afternoon I may be visiting a client, I may be working on emails, following up, calls. A lot of it is phone calls and emails. A lot of it, if I'm not in court, I'm doing phone calls and emails. And sometimes, unfortunately, in court, the way they schedule it, they'll schedule it either at 9 a.m. or at 1:30 p.m. So you may have like 10 cases scheduled for 9 a.m. So you may get there at 9, but you might not get heard until like 11:30. So
Wow.
sometimes you're in court, and then or it can be heard at 9 and you may not get heard until 2 p.m. depending on because they have to take a lunch break. So it really depends on the cases and the days. They can drag on very long. Some nights I'm working on motions.
Wow.
Um, it really depends on the day.
So, Bishop, you just mentioned working on emotions. How do you handle the emotional weight of family disputes?
It's really difficult, to be honest. It's constantly trying to explain to people, what things are really important because some people think matters are really important that really aren't that important to the court, that they won't
Mhm.
necessarily make a decision based on that one factor. So a lot of times it's kind of just validating people and trying to let them know like I understand it's completely understandable how you're feeling this way about a situation, but this is how the court views it.
Mhm.
So more recently I feel like I've gotten more honest with my clients. um and it's actually something I've heard a judge say before. And a lot of the times the court, they're there to help you resolve it. And they can't really fix crazy. Like they can't fix the fact that you chose a crazy baby dad. They
Mhm.
can't, it's unfortunate that they're in, this situation. But we really just need to figure out how to resolve it. And we need to figure out, how to get through it because it's a tough time. But, how can we move past it? It's difficult.
Absolutely. Sure. And talking about tough times, Miss Sharp, the last time you left off on child custody, one of the areas that you specialize in, I'm just going to turn it over to you now. Can you talk some more about child custody? What exactly is child custody? How do you calculate the payments if there's a child support in order? So, Miss Sharp, I'm going to turn it over to you, and you're going to talk about your child custody, and then we're going to get into the other areas of your specialty. Thank you.
No problem. So with custody, there's two different types of custody. There's legal custody and there's physical custody. Generally, with legal custody, both parents have it. It's usually shared or joint. Um, if there's one parent that has sole legal custody, is generally because the other parent is either incapacitated or unavailable. But generally, it's shared, and that's basically making any major decisions regarding the child's health, education, anything important for the child. Physical custody is based on physically having the child, who has the child in their presence. That can be shared as well. It can be one parent as a primary. It can have, the other parent has like weekends. It can be a wide range of custody, physical custody situations. Um, Then, as well, with the custody, there is something that needs to be filed, as I didn't really discuss it, I don't believe, at the last time. A lot of times people move. So it's difficult because in Pennsylvania, New Jersey, where I'm at, the line is very thin. So if someone is in, it could be, from Pennsylvania to New Jersey, it could be 15 minutes, but you could be an hour and still live in the same state. But
Mm-hmm.
um, every state you have to file what's called a notice of relocation if you want to move. And that's
Okay.
pretty much notifying the court as well as the other parent, hey, I want to move. This is how far I'm going to move. This is where the child will be. And a lot of the times a lot of people don't know that. So they just move or they ask the parent and the parent says no and they're like, well, I'm moving anyway. You can't really do that. So what will happen is if one parent objects to the other parent moving and the parent moves anyway with the child, that parent can request for that child to come back. What the court will say is you can move, but the child has to stay back here until we decide on what's in the best interest of the child. If it's better for the child to move with you where you are, or if the child should stay here, and what type of custody arrangement would that look like for the parties living in different areas. Um, so that's definitely something that I know a lot of people fail to do, but it's something really important, whether you have a custody order or not.
Mm-hmm.
It's something that you should consider doing. Um, I think you also touched on support payments. So the way courts do it, which they should do it together, but they handle them separate. They handle support, child support and custody separate. However, support does have a deviation on custody depending on how many overnights the party has. So if there's shared custody, there may be a deviation in the child support calculation. However, there still could be a child support uh, a payment even if there is shared custody. Child
Mm-hmm.
support is just based on income. That's really it's how much does mom make, how much does dad make, and how much support does this child should this child receive. And the idea is that both parties are paying support to this child. It's just that if the one child is in one home primarily, then that person is the one who is already paying support to that child in that home. So that's why the non-custodial parent or the parent who doesn't have as much custodial time has to pay support to the other parent. So I know a lot of people feel like, oh, well, they're not paying nothing and I have to pay this. No, they are paying support. It's just not coming out of their pocket. It's going into the lights, the clothes for the child, food, and just look transportation, little things that
Mm-hmm.
a day-to-day basis. So support is, as I said, it's really straightforward. There may be some additional fees that can be included, such as um, medical expenses, if there are any extra medical expenses. Some children have different medical needs that require additional expenses that may be included, as well as childcare. So those are other things that can be added in support. But in regards to custody, a lot of the things that the court looks at in regards to the factors, they really just
Mm-hmm.
want to make sure that the child is having just as much time with each parent as possible. So they want to make sure there's obviously no abuse or there's no neglect issues. Make
Mm-hmm.
sure that both parents are stable. They look at the housing stability, mental stability, financial stability. Um, they look at familiar relationships. Does this child have active relationships with their siblings, with, aunties, uncles, grandparents? All of those things the court considers. The main thing they want to make sure is that the parents can cooperate and agree. That's the biggest thing. They don't want you to have to come to court. They don't, because they don't know your life. They don't know what you
Mm-hmm.
do day to day. They don't know how everything is run. So it's best if you figure it out, yourselves on how it would work better for you. So a lot of times they err on the side of splitting it. Let's just share it. If there's no issues, there's no one way or the other. No parent is really greater than the other parent. A lot of times they just split the custody.
Yeah. So at the end of the day, it's always about the child or children. But let
Yes.
me ask you, Miss Sharp, do you think that the child has a say in this hearing? Have you ever seen a child being in court? Has a judge ever interviewed a child?
Yes, the court does interview a child. It really depends on the child's, excuse me, it depends on the child's age as well.
Hmm.
Um, when they're around, I'm going to say around 7, 8, 9, the court may interview them, but they don't necessarily take their word as law because at that point, they're not really, um, their word isn't necessarily 100% dependable. At that
Okay.
point, they're little, kids, they
They're
want to make
7 and 6.
yeah, they want to
They're
make they want to make
babies,
both parents happy. So they're
of
just like,
course.
I just want to play with my Barbies or my trucks and like I don't
Paw
care.
Patrol. I just want to watch Paw
Yeah.
Patrol.
Yeah, so they
Why
don't
drag me into court?
they don't really care. They're like, I don't, what are you asking me? So, a lot of times they wait until the child is, around, 11, 10, 11, 12. Around that
Hmm.
age, they can kind of consider it. Obviously, when they're teenagers, which I have been in court with a 16, 17-year-old in regards to custody. And they will interview them. And, a lot of times I've actually been on a few interviews. Sometimes they'll interview them just with the judge and the child. And sometimes they'll do it with just the attorneys. They try not to interview the child with the parents in the room. They
Okay.
try to make it, relaxing and try to make sure the child feels comfortable. And, they don't want to like dive into like, who do you want to live with or how does your mom treat you or this. Like, it's more of like, what do you like to do? What things do you do
Hmm.
with your mom and dad? Like, who takes care of you a lot? Who's the one who like feeds you? Who makes you, your dinners or your lunches for school? What do you think? They kind of ask them questions like that to gauge, their feelings. And a lot of times kids,
Hmm.
as I said, they really just want to be with both parents unless there's something, gravely wrong with the other
Hmm.
parent.
But
But
do you find that the kids try to gravitate more to mom than dad?
no, honestly, no,
No.
I don't. I think it varies. I think it depends on the child's age. And I think it depends on the relationship that the child has with both parents. Now, if both parents are involved and have been involved from the beginning, the child usually doesn't have a preference. They usually just want to be with both. A lot of the times, though, the way the parties separate, a lot of
Hmm.
the times the child goes with mom initially.
Of course.
So what happens is that the child considers where mom's house is home. And obviously the other house is home, but it's dad's home.
Yes.
So they would love to be with both, but they think about the mom's home as like that's where all my main stuff is. Like that's where all
Hmm.
my big toys, the ones that I play with the majority of the time. So, but as they get older, honestly, they really just they don't want to be involved. They really just like I want to be with whatever parent I want to be with at whatever time I want to be with them.
Sure, sure. And at what age does I know in some state it's different. You practice in Pennsylvania and New Jersey, but
Yes.
is this across the board when you hit 18, there is no more binding contract for child support?
No, it is not across the board. I would say majority of the states, yes, but New Jersey is one state where support can continue through the child's college. So
Okay.
it's funny, as I said, because of Pennsylvania and New Jersey being on the border. So a lot of times people, at a certain time they'll move to New Jersey and they'll get a support order in New Jersey, and that support order will continue until that child is finished from college. Now there are ways around that. For instance, if the child is in college, but they have their own apartment,
Mhm.
they're living pretty much independently, they, aren't using any type of support from the other parent, then you could possibly stop the support at that point.
Okay, very well. Guys, you can start putting your questions in the chat for Miss Sharp. If you have a question on child support, child custody, start putting them in the chat. We are going to get to the chat as soon as we can. Miss Sharp, you want to just talk a little bit more about child support, and then we're going to move on to prenuptial agreement, divorce and separation.
Okay. There was one thing that I did want to mention. I'm not sure if you were going to mention it or not, but there was um so I know grandparents. I've actually had that question a few times in regards to how does grandparents have any type of custodial rights. Grandparents do have some type of standing. However, it only occurs when the one parent has passed away. For instance,
Mm.
if the father or the mother has passed away, or they are incapacitated, such as like they're either mentally, emotionally, or mentally incapacitated, or they're in going to be in prison for a long amount of time.
Mhm.
That grandparent, if that grandparent had a relationship with that child, they can request custodial time, and the court would entertain that and ask kind of ask questions on what type of relationship, obviously, the grandparent had with the child, but they are more than welcome to file and request for custody or parenting.
So, so custodial time, is that different from full custody, or what is the difference if a grandparent wants to be involved?
So of the grandparent, it would basically just be parenting time. So it's a custody and parenting time. It's interchangeable. So
Okay.
when you think of custody, custody is the full bracket. You think of,
Mm-hmm.
as it says, like custody, and then you have like legal or you have physical custody. And then when you think about physical custody is more of like the parenting time aspect. So the parenting time or the visitation, that's another word that's being used interchangeably. So it's either visitation, parenting time, or custodial time.
Awesome. Awesome. Good information. Shay, what are we seeing in the chat?
We currently do not have anything in the chat right now.
Nothing, guy. Sorry.
We don't have anything in the chat right now.
Okay, I guess Ms. Sharp, you're doing an amazing job. We're learning so much. But start putting your questions in the chat for child custody and child maintenance if you have those. But we're gonna hop on to prenuptial agreement. That is a big one, a huge one, Ms. Sharp. Have you seen that lot lately in your practice?
Actually not too much.
Okay.
It really depends on assets. So a lot of people who have businesses, I've been seeing that, and it's really more like in the counties areas where um people are wanting to protect, an actual business.
Mm-hmm.
Or and it's not I haven't really been around people that have, millions of dollars yet where they that. Um, but no, I've actually seen a couple post-nuptial agreements as well. I've seen a few people who, after they've married, they want to see about getting protecting their assets. And a post-nuptial, it is also it will be the court will abide by it. They will review it. They will, make sure that it's actually can be enforced.
Mm-hmm.
But it comes with the same requirements for the prenuptial agreement, such as has to have full disclosure of everything, disclosure of any assets, debts, everything. You have to have an attorney review it, obviously, and as well as have time to actually review it, consider it before you sign it.
Okay, do you believe in what's mine is mine, what's yours is yours? You came in the relationship with $1 million. I came in with a penny. Do you believe after a few years it should be split 50-50? Do you have you
So,
seen that in Sharp?
so the way it works is that the uh you're once you get married,
Uh-huh.
anything that you had before the marriage is yours. Anything from the time you got married to the time you separated, that is marital. So if you had $1 million before we got married, and now you
Mhm.
got married, and now we're trying to get divorced, and you have 2 million, now you have to share that other million. You don't have to share the first million, you just have to share the second million. So
Good. And can you explain what is the difference between separate legal separation and divorce?
So there's some states that do consider legal separation. Pennsylvania, New Jersey are not one of the state or either of the states that do that. Legal separation is something where you would basically file with the court, stating that you guys have separated, you're living separate and apart, your assets and things have been separated, and you plan to, move forward to possible divorce. Um, but a lot of times when in here and as I said here, we don't really file anything as far as legal separation. When you do file a divorce, you're basically filing an affidavit saying that you have been separated for a period of time.
Okay. And what does that period of time looks like? Is it 1 year, 2 years?
So 6 months, at least six
Six
months or more,
months.
at least 6 months or
Interesting.
more. So technically, so because the climate, people haven't really been necessarily living separate and apart, but they have
Mhm.
been separated. So as far as they have decided that they no longer want to be together and that, they basically have been having irreconcilable differences and they can't reconcile. So they don't necessarily have to be living in separate homes, but they basically
Mhm.
have to say that they have not been together for the last 6 months. They do not want to be back together.
Interesting. Very good. Shay, are we seeing anything in the chat?
We have two questions. The first question is from Sharon Smith. She says, is child abuse widespread or is it a small percentage?
Oh, it's widespread. Child abuse is really unfortunate. It happens a lot. And sometimes I'm going to say actually, let me say not abuse. There's a lot of times there's abuse and neglect. So sometimes the neglect aspect, as far as there being a lot of teen moms, or there have been a lot of parents or younger parents that don't necessarily know how to care for a child.
Mm.
So they're not necessarily, beating the child, but they may not be feeding the child. They may not be, changing or cleaning the child as much. There may be certain issues in regards to that. There are a lot of issues. I actually represent children in abuse and neglect in New Jersey, and I do mainly two counties right now, Mercer County, and there's a lot of cases, but the state does a lot to try to intervene and help out the families, try to provide them services to, for instance, if the child has to be removed, they give the parent, it's not automatically, oh, you abuse a child, it's automatically, this child is not going back to you. It really depends on the circumstances, the level of abuse, obviously, as well as if the child wants to go back. So that's where I come in. I represent the children. So I
Mhm.
represent what they want, and I represent children from newborns up until 21. And sometimes they want to go back home. One of my first cases, she was like a five, I think she was about 5 or 6 years old. She said, I want to go home. I want to go back to mom. I just don't want her to beat me with a hanger. It's very clear. She just says, I want to go back. I love my mom. I want to be with my mom. I just want her to treat me right. And honestly, that's a lot of the situation in these cases. The children, most of the time, want to go back with their parent. They just want to be treated right.
Mhm. And do you find that what are some of the reasons why children are neglected? This breaks my heart when a child knowingly know that he or she's neglected and wants to go back. So do you find that neglect is from usually one side of the parent, the other parent, mom or opposed to dad?
Nope. I see it both ways. A lot of times in my cases, it's both parents. It's an issue with both parents. It's usually, if once it comes to me, there's usually a problem with both. before it gets to me, what they'll do if there's an allegation of abuse, they'll investigate it. For instance, if the child lives with mom and there's some allegations of abuse with mom, they'll try to find dad. Hey, dad, can you keep the child? Or grandmom, can you keep the child before it comes
Mm-hmm.
to court? Try to get mom services and things like that. But if dad is nowhere to be found or dad has his own issues as well, that's where it comes into court where it's okay, now we need to figure out what's going on with this child because they don't have either parent. So I think a lot of it comes from socioeconomic status,
Yeah.
where they are living, education.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot of times I have a lot of clients that they just have like 6 or 7 kids. It's just kid back to back to back. And it's just and honestly, so that's also where I come in and I am a pool attorney. So I
Mm-hmm.
represent conflict cases. So a lot of my clients are babies of people that have been in the system already. So it's a lot of it is recycled, a lot of the families. So like I had a couple like cases that had like a name. Once you said this case name, it's like, oh, not this case again. Like who's a
Wow.
part of this case or which family
Uh-huh.
is a part of this case? So yeah, it's
Do you get
heartbreaking.
emotionally attached to some of the children that you represent?
Absolutely, absolutely. The children are because most of them they're just sweet and innocent. Even the ones I have one client who's she stresses me out, but you know, she's been through a lot. And so it's the fact that I want to be able to be there and be their support. You know, I don't want to
Mm-hmm.
make it harder on them than it already is. They have, you know, caseworkers. A lot of times they're thrown in services such as
Mm-hmm.
therapy and you know, some of the children have, you know, medical and emotional issues. They're on medications. They have,
Yeah.
you know, just horrible behavior issues. They have to have behavioral aid. They have IEPs. So they have, you know, they have so many people communicating with them, and a lot of the times it gets really overwhelming. So it definitely is heart-wrenching sometimes, but
Yes.
um, you know,
Good.
it's a good job.
Thank you, Miss Shaw. Shay, are we seeing anything, any other questions in the chat?
Man, we got a couple more here in the chat. So, Erica would like to know what happens if you go through a divorce and a day after you change your decision. What are the steps to annul the divorce?
Oh, interesting question.
Um, so I can't speak for every state, but you cannot annul a divorce. Once a divorce is finalized, it is finalized. You can get remarried, which a lot of people do, but you cannot annul a divorce. I had recently had someone who literally right after the hearing, we're on the virtual hearing, the court says, okay, you guys are divorced. He says, so what happens if I don't want the divorce anymore? I'm like, sir, it's too
You
late.
can't on divorce.
It's too late. We're already we're past that point. But I've also had a few cases where we've gotten to almost the divorce point, and then they decided to withdraw their complaint and stay together.
Okay. Good. What else we're seeing? Good response to Mary. Shay, what else are we seeing?
I think this is Nichols. I do apologize if I say it wrong. Would like to know is it necessary for unmarried parents to file for custody?
Mm.
I think it is. When a child is born, technically no one has custody. You can look at it either way. You can look at it as no one has custody or both people have custody. So even if uh dad's name is not on the birth certificate and it's only mom's name on the birth certificate, if that's dad and you know that's dad and the baby is claim knows that that's dad, you can't say, oh, he kidnapped the baby, or you can't say she kidnapped the baby. It's best to just have an order where it outlines who has what type of parenting time. um I think that a lot of times people get held up with that. They try to, communicate. I mean, I understand you definitely want to communicate and work it out with each other, but I
Mm-hmm.
definitely think that there should be some type of physical order that outlines what is the agreement between both parties, because it just gets really messy. And when 3 years down the line, now you want to come to court, and it's like you want to dump 3 years of stuff to the court, and it's like they're trying to figure out what's in the best interest. And a lot of times at that point they just want to give it, they want to make sure that the child has a relationship with both parents. So it's like they don't really care that what happened, in year 1 or year 2 or year 3 or 4. I've had a case where a dad was gone for 7 years, came back, and the child was from, I think I'm gonna say she was between two, I'm gonna say he was going for about 5 years, 5 years. So it's gonna say 2 to 7. He wasn't in jail, just wasn't there. Came back, wanted to be around a child. Child, mom, the child didn't really, she didn't know him, so she wasn't really comfortable, didn't want to go. The court was like, well, she got to get comfortable. That's her dad,
Wow.
and it
And
wasn't.
that's perfectly legal.
Yes. And it got to the point where the we were in the dad, the mom was, they were supposed to meet at a police station. Child didn't really want to go. She would cry or whatever the case may be. Dad would say it was basically mom kind of encouraging her to not want to go with him. So he would file contempt, and she kept being held in contempt and having to pay fines. The last time the judge was like, you have to stay here in the courtroom, and dad, you go out there and get your daughter, and you can take your daughter, and you have to wait. Mom, you can't leave the courtroom until dad leaves the courthouse, because she wanted to make sure that dad, can have, the adequate time that he's supposed to have. So,
Good information. Good. Shay, let's pull some more questions from the chat if we have any.
AS says neglect can also be medical and educational.
That's
absolutely.
true. That's true.
Absolutely. Those are definitely things. So that's one of the things, obviously schools are mandated reporters. So if there's anything in regards to the child is failing or the child isn't coming to school, there's horrible attendance, that can be reported to CPS, and CPS can, do an investigation and find out what's going on, as well as if a child is always sick or bruises or things like that. The child hasn't had any shots for the last year, something like that, that can definitely be reported.
So is that considered abuse or neglect?
Neglect will be considered
Okay.
neglect, but there's different levels. So it really, the court would, I mean, the state would investigate the whole situation to
Hmm.
see. Sometimes they can say, for instance, it could be, lack of transportation, no medical insurance, certain things like that. So they try not to automatically say, okay, this is neglect, or they
Hmm.
say, this parent is a horrible parent immediately. They try to investigate and try to figure out what happened. And, maybe they can fix it. Maybe it wasn't neglect. Maybe it was just, lack of information or something, needing assistance or something like that.
Good. Good. Go ahead, Shay. What else are we seeing?
Jordan says, How does alimony work during a divorce and how long does it last?
So alimony is, it depends on the length of marriage. There's actually a few factors that the court looks at. It looks at income, the length of marriage, the need of the money. So alimony can last. So if you've been married, for instance, in New Jersey, if you've been married for longer than 20 years, it'll last forever.
Wow.
But if you it can be based on how long you've been married. For instance, if you've been married for 10 years, they can say, okay, 5 years of alimony. There's not like a hard set number.
Hmm.
It really is a lot of factors that come into the alimony.
And
And
how do you calculate that? How do you calculate alimony?
alimony is based on support. It's the same concept as support, based on incomes. and the need, what was provided. For instance, if there's the house was split, or one person stays in the house, then the other person, the alimony may include mortgage payment or something like that. So it really depends on how the divorce was resolved, and anything that was outstanding, any other support that's needed. But alimony is based on mainly on income.
It's mainly income. That's good. And some of us lady, we love the luxury, we love the fancy lifestyle. Let's say we are filing for spousal support and we're trying to get the alimony. Would the judge look into the lifestyle that you had when you were married, or it is just solely the husband's or the spouse's income?
Yes. Yes, absolutely. It is definitely absolutely the lifestyle that was created. So that's where the income aspect comes in. So for instance, if, as you said, there was a income discrepancy, and there was, husband was the breadwinner,
Mhm.
and wife's income isn't adequate, isn't all the way up as his is income. So he may have to pay alimony based on how much how much all of her expenses are, or how much her expenses generally are at this point. And the idea would be basically to get her back on her feet, so that she can, essentially find her own income and be able to
Mhm.
sustain that lifestyle.
Yeah, let's stay on that. This is interesting, Miss Sharp. Let's stay on that for a little bit. So let's say her lifestyle was driving just a regular Nissan Altima, just a basic two-door Nissan Altima, $20, fill your tank up.
Yes.
And that's the lifestyle you live. So now you're filing for spousal support. Your husband hit the lottery. Now he's a millionaire. How do you calculate that? Is it
So
from
that's
the jackpot that he hit, or
that's really tricky. Depends on when you hit the jackpot. If you hit the jackpot, I would probably suggest you reconcile, and then they separate. So what they look at is the date of separation. So
Uh-huh.
if you're separated already, and then that party, receives this, lottery, that's their lottery. They can argue. I mean, you can argue and say, I should receive some based
Of
on
course I should.
whatever. Yeah, but if you guys have already been separated, then you might need to figure a way to get back in and
Just be nice,
your
right?
way
Just
back
figure a
out.
way to butter him up, yeah?
Yeah.
Good stuff. Shay, what else are we getting from the chat?
Courtney says, does the same thing apply for grandparents who want to get custody of their grandchild of the parents who seem unfit? Is it the same process?
So yes, so there are a lot of times grandparents do file for custody of their grandchildren. So the way the court handles that is they generally tell the grandparents to uh call CPS. So sometimes for habits, sorry, getting confused. So sometimes, for instance, there are parents who leave their children with their grandparents. So the child has pretty much been raised by the grandma. And then the grandparents try to file for custody. So if you can prove that you've already been raising the child, and that the child is in your care, and that the parents, you know, aren't unfit, or that they're unfit, and that they're really not doing what they're supposed to be doing, then yes, you can. But in regards to the children being in the home with the parents, and the grandparents think that the parents are unfit, they can't just request custody from the parents. They have to ask for, they have to contact CPS, and then maybe there's a CPS investigation, where there's actual proof that there is a concern. And at that point, CPS would generally reach out to the grandparents anyway if the children needed a place to stay. That's the first place that they would look for. But grandparents can't just get custody of children that are with their parents. No.
Wow, that's good. And I know there's some really lovely grandparents out there that do take care of the kids even
Mhm.
better than the biological parents. So grandparents are very important.
They
Good
are.
stuff. Shay, what are we getting?
Excuse me. Janelle would like to know what happens to the child if both parents pass away? Which grandparents or family member gets custody?
So it really depends on if the parents had a will, or if they had like an outline, or godparents. That comes in. That's really what your job is as a godparent. You're supposed to step in if the parents um if they're passed away or incapacitated. Um, but it would go on familiar relationships. So depends on the child's relationship with either, there's been custody situations where there's, auntie or grandmom or someone that's arguing. But a lot of times everyone usually agrees to try to work on dealing with the kids. There's generally not too many arguments of who should keep this child. Most times they try to work with everybody. Because for the best interest of the child.
And you mentioned godparents. I am a godmother of many godchildren. I told you in the first season that I stopped counting after seven godchildren. I just stopped counting. But I do have a lot of godchildren. So, what role would I play if, let's say, both parents passed away and both grandparents are still alive and I wanted custody? How will I tackle that?
Well, you would have to most likely take them to court, and you would have to assert your standing. So it would depend on your relationship. It really depends on the relationship, the child, where the child wants to go. For instance, if you're a godparent that's been there, from day one, they, have a really good relationship with you, they may want to stay with you. And at that point, the court will have to consider what's in the best interest of the child. But they
Mhm.
most likely will do like a shared arrangement where the child will be
Okay.
able to be with both sides. That's the main thing is they want the child to have as much family relationships as possible, because it
Mhm.
does take a village to raise a child. It's not just mom and dad. They want to make sure the child is, communicating with aunties. Do they have cousins? Do they have, family friends that they consider close? So.
Good stuff, good stuff. And that's true because it also takes a toll, a mental toll on the children. So there has to be a happy medium. Let's do a quick time check on the Ask Carol Talk Show. We have 10 minutes. Shay, let's get through some more questions.
Okay, we have a question here from Ms. Jessica Reed Smith. She would like to know, would dental care be a part of medical neglect? And if the child is severely behind in school with no academic issues like a IEP or a learning disability.
So the first part, dental neglect. Yes. However, that isn't something that is seen often. I feel that generally, if it's dental neglect, there's probably something else as well, in conjunction with the dental neglect. But a lot of those things, those have to be reported. If no one's saying anything, I've seen, there's some kids that, don't have great dental care, but if no one's reporting it, then no one's going to talk about, or no one's going to investigate it. But if they're in school and the school notice it, they can definitely report that as well. In regards to if the child is behind, you said academically,
Mhm.
so would that
Yeah.
be a part of neglect if the child is behind? I'm not sure if I understand. So if the child.
Um, so the question says, if the child is severely behind in school with no academic issues like learning disability or IEP. So I'm assuming,
Would that be neglect?
yeah.
Yeah, so yes, if the child is severely behind, yes, absolutely. There's something that the school would should report. Now they don't all the time, which is really unfortunate. There's a lot of kids that just get passed through that don't have good grades. They don't have an IEP, they don't have a behavioral aid, they don't have really anyone monitoring their progress. And it's really unfortunate. And a lot of times they just either either get reported or they don't. But it is definitely
Good, good stuff. Go ahead, Shay. We're going to get through most of the questions as we can.
Okay. Jordan would like to know if kids are involved and parents get a divorce, but the father has full custody. Is he still entitled to alimony?
Interesting question.
Involved and parents get a divorce. It depends. So it really depends. If the uh it really say it really depends on the factors. I'm not gonna say it's not possible. I'm gonna say it is very possible. If there is, as I said, a large discrepancy as far as lifestyles, if but then there would be questions that the court would want to know, why does this parent have full custody and why does this other one not have full custody? There may not be a need for alimony because now, your housing, you're only taking care of yourself, and there may be some other factors that the court may consider in regards to the actual need for the alimony.
Good. Good stuff. Go ahead, Shay.
That is all of the questions we have.
That is all. Good. The amazing attorney at law, Tamara Sharp, who practices in New Jersey and Pennsylvania. Ms. Sharp, can you just pop your information in the chat? If you need to retain an attorney and you're in the state of New Jersey or Pennsylvania, please contact the brilliant Ms. Sharp. She will fight for you. She will fight for your children. She specializes, of course, in child custody. She specializes in prenuptial agreement. If you want to hold on to your money and don't share your money with your spouse, Miss Sharp specializes in prenuptial agreement. Please hit her up. She is brilliant and amazing. Also, if you would like to support the Ask Carol show, please send us your donation. Our information is in the chat. Please support Ask Carol Talk Show. We are doing amazing. We have some great stuff lined up for you in this season too. And we have a famous person coming on in this season. So you want to stick with us for every episode on this season too. Let's do a quick time check. We have 5 minutes. Any more questions for our attorney? Shay, have we seen anything? If not, I'm going to ask Ms. Sharp to just wrap up with final thoughts.
No, we don't have anything at this moment. You can go ahead, Michelle.
We are well educated today. We learned a lot. I learned a lot on custody. I am passionate. For those of you who really know me, I am passionate about children. So when it comes to child custody and child neglect, I am so passionate and I learned a lot today. And not only if you're in the state of New Jersey and Pennsylvania, it's across the board. No child should be neglected. No child should go through abuse. It's going to take a mental toll on our children. So please find a happy medium so our child or our children are safe in this day and age. Miss Sharp, final thoughts.
Yes, thank you so much for having me. As I said, just to echo your statements, I mean the most important thing with all the cases are what's in the best interest of the child. The child should definitely, it's important to have the full village, mom, dad, and unfortunately, you're not going to agree with everything with the other parent, but you should definitely try your hardest to just do what's best for the child because all they want is for both parents to be happy. That's really all they want.
Yeah, absolutely. All the children want is for the parents to be happy. And I know you also practice domestic abuse with adults, or is it with children?
Yes, with the adults. So I
Adults.
do handle
So
domestic violence matters. Yes.
So if you have a situation where you're being domestically abused and you need help, seek help. First of all, do not suffer in silence. Seek help, and you can seek the help of our brilliant attorney at law, Tamara Sharp, who practices in New Jersey and Pennsylvania. Domestic violence, domestic abuse is never okay. Find that happy medium. Find that good communication skills and it will work out. Next week, guys, we have the beautiful, the brilliant, the amazing Dr. Hall, who will be back by special request. She was on with us for season one. She will be back on next Saturday, the 26th, and she's going to talk about mental health. Mental health is a topic that it is spiraling. A lot of people are suffering in silence. So Dr. Hall is going to unlock some of the myths about mental health. She's going to help me with my mental health. She's going to help us with our mental health. It has been an amazing show. Thank you, everyone, for hanging with us. Thank you for kicking it with us on season one. Season two is going to be bigger and better. To the amazing attorney at law, Tamara Sharp. Thank you so much from the Ask Carol team. Thank you for all the information. We learned some stuff today. Again, if you need services, if you're in New Jersey and Pennsylvania, please see Miss Sharp. She will help you. She will fight for your children. She will fight for you. And she will be back as a guest on the Ask Carol show at some point in time. We would love to have you on every episode. Thank you, everyone. Shay, any final thoughts before we wrap it up on the Ask Carol Talk Show?
Just remember to like, follow, and subscribe to our social media channels. And we will be adding a TikTok to the lineup very shortly.
Yes, we will be taking and we will be talking on the Ask Carol Talk Show. It's been an amazing show. Thank you, everyone. And what's in the
You.
Ask Carol mug today? I've been a little bit under the weather, so today in my mug is tea, hot tea. So here we go. Are you ready for my rap? Here we go. Now, ask Carol anything, don't hold back. Real conversations on the right track. Real impact, no fluff, just fact. Ask Carol, ask attorney at law Tamara Sharp, and ask the beautiful Shay. Thank you, everyone, for joining us. It's been an amazing show. See you next week. We will talk about mental health with the amazing and brilliant Dr. Hall. Thank you so much, everyone. Good evening.